Horizon Chess Home CG reaction. This is why wasn't France carved up after Napoleon was defeated by the channel History Matters. Napoleon embarrassed everybody. Yeah, he definitely did. Lost, nobody took territory from France afterwards. But why not? Yeah, that is true, isn't it? I mean, in the recent history, ignoring Hitler, in past few centuries, Napoleon was just that guy, right? Who basically dominated lots of part of the Europe, right? He took over lots of places, replaced, lots of regime with his relatives. He believed a lot in nepotism, I guess. He probably thought that he's going to gain him some kind of loyalty in a way. So yeah, he definitely took a lot of places until he reached, Russia, right? Tried to invade Russia. So after that, it was just his downfall. So it is interesting that why didn't nobody why wasn't people pissed off enough at France that they actually carved it up or something, right? Or was that even a thing at that time, right? I mean, we know that, in World War One, after World War One, lots of carving happened, right? And I'm pretty sure before that it happened, but did it happen inside the Europe, right? And I'm talking about when major countries are already formed. I'm not talking about the medieval times. Did it happen like in France, Spain before? Because I'm pretty sure France, Spain, England had lots of battles throughout the years, but they never actually, came to the carving of anything. But I guess Napoleon was an exception since he was really dominating and he threatened a lot of people. So I don't know why that didn't happen. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting video. Remember, people like no phone, like, subscribe, so I know which type of videos to react to more. Check out the Rick there's a link in the description. Check out the end card, or I guess link in the description for the playlist I created for history. There are way too many history reactions I already did, so if you haven't seen them, check that out. And yeah, let's watch it.
When you start a major European conflict and get defeated, you'll often lose territory as a result. In 1789, France looked like this. There was soon a lot of warring, one Napoleon, and just over 25 years later, it looked like this. Not a whole lot different. And given the destruction and embarrassment that Europe's other powers suffered at the hands of France, why wasn't it punished more? Why didn't the victorious allies carve up France? So, as many of you will know, France expanded rapidly in the wake of the French Revolution and peaked at this size. Naturally, once Napoleon was dealt with, France lost most of its gains but was allowed to keep a few conquests. That was until Napoleon returned. After his second defeat, France lost these territories further. The French border regions were then occupied, whilst the Congress of Vienna, called by the victorious powers to decide what was to be done with France and her allies, was ongoing. It was decided that France wouldn't be dismembered or have large swathes of land taken from it and given to anyone else. This wasn't exactly a unanimous decision. The coalition powers fell into two groups. The first was the Punish France camp. This included Prussia, the Netherlands, Switzerland, Savoy, and to a lesser extent Austria. Whereas the other powers were in the Let's Not Be Hasty camp. This included the United Kingdom, Russia, and unsurprisingly, France itself.
United Kingdom and Russia. Okay, I didn't see that coming. So United Kingdom and Russia are like, oh, let's not be hasty. Let's keep France the way it is, which is weird, especially UK there. All right. Look, if I were to think that, look, there's a Spain here, right? German states, Austria, basically, Prussia, things like that, UK here. So I guess France can act like a buffer place kind of thing since it's in the middle of it. And they don't want to create instability by carving it up. That could be one of the reasons, right? That is why UK would be like, okay, let's not be hasty, right? Because why would UK do that, right? UK and France, this fight is way too old, I guess. But yeah, I definitely think it's the buffer state thing. Like, let's not create instability here. I don't know.
And this division was something that the French representatives, led by Charles-Maurice de Talleyrand, were able to use to France's advantage. Prussia gained this from the Congress. Its original hopes were for this, but Talleyrand was able to convince the British and the Russians to pressure Prussia to accept these lands along the Rhine, which notably included this piece of France proper. This kept the Russians and the Austrians happy, gave Prussia some very rich land to the west, and was exactly what the French wanted. So why? Why willingly give up some of your own land? Because the French were convinced the peace wouldn't last and that these lands would be hard for Prussia to maintain, meaning that in a future war France could win them for itself. This never happened, but it was an interesting idea. The Netherlands and Savoy...
Oh, that's a very dick thing all around, right? I mean, you just created instability. I don't care if it's Napoleon, right? It doesn't matter who you blame. France as a whole dominated the world, right? You let the Napoleon be your emperor. So after doing all that shit, after them letting you be without carving you up, you're like, yeah, Prussia can have that thing, and just secretly thinking in the future I'll take that fucking place, I'll conquer it again. That's really fucked up thing all around.
were also countries which wanted extra lands from France. The Netherlands had hoped for this, but got told that their annexation of the former Austrian Netherlands and rule over Luxembourg would be enough, so shut up. Savoy, despite not doing anything, was given this land at the behest of Austria, who was busy trying to create an Italian confederation much like the German one, which conveniently it would also run. Except that the whole Italian confederation thing fell flat, but it was at least a good effort. Everyone went along with this because the Netherlands and Savoy were supposed to be mid-sized buffer states to keep France contained. And so the only other state that wanted French land was Switzerland, which had hoped to be given all of this. They only got this connecting Geneva to the rest of the country. And the reason was that they had no major powers on their side since none of them would gain anything from an expanded Switzerland. And so what about the rest? Well, for the UK, Russia and
people are surprised that Switzerland since then has been neutral. Like, what the fuck have you done to me, any of you? I'm not going to be siding any of you, right? I'm neutral.
Extent Austria, there was one primary concern: the balance of power and maintaining monarchical government in Europe. Austria wanted a strong France to counter Prussia and Britain. Russia wanted a strong France to counter Prussia, Austria and Britain just didn't want to have to deal with the continent anymore. And carving up France meant that no one would get what they wanted. Because if France lost a lot of territory, its recently restored monarchy would probably be overthrown again. It's also the reason why during Napoleon's return the coalition didn't declare war on France but on Napoleon. The restored King of France was an ally against Napoleonic and Republican ideals, and thus stealing all of his land afterwards wouldn't have been cool. In the end, it was the coalition's suspicions of each other that meant that France needed to remain strong and unified, meaning that unlike in the wake of other great wars in Europe, major territorial losses were off the table. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and a special thanks to my patrons: James Bisonet, Kelly Moneymaker, Sky Chappelle, Corsha Wolf, Jerry Light, Dove Swan, Mark Beckett, Copper Tone,
Yeah, alright. So that definitely makes sense all around. Yeah. First of all, Britain's whole thing is that I guess, first I thought, like, why won't Britain go for it, right? Like, having land on France means you have direct land access to Europe. But then again, that whole security thing is their naval forces, that they're so strong. Now, if they have land in France, in basically a continent, right, there would be a problem. Right now, they're an island, so they can defend it with their boats and shit. It's hard to invade Britain that way, right, because of the British Navy. Now, if you land on the... So they didn't care about the land that way. And yeah, that does make sense. It's not just about being a buffer state. It's like, I don't care about the land, and if everybody else gets the land, they become way overpowered. So Britain didn't want that. Russia didn't want that since it's kind of a distance, right? So they're like, all this German state, Austria... They all start to get land there. Yeah, that would be a problem, right? And if Russia gets land somehow, right, it's in a faraway place. How are they going to defend it? So Russia won't care about it. Britain didn't care about it. So that kind of makes sense. But yeah, damn, there's so much politics that goes behind this, right? But imagine that after Napoleonic War, everybody just carved off France, and France was left really small. How would we see France today? How many territory would be different, right? I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I guess Alternate History Hub, that channel probably did some video like that. They usually tackle topics like this, but yeah. Right, well, that was why wasn't France carved out after Napoleon was defeated? Because, yeah, everybody was afraid of everybody getting land, apparently. Alright, if you like my next one, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you next time.